Let's talk about our baby senses. What we need to remember is that eating is a learned behavior. It is not something that comes naturally to our babies. And so we really need to focus on how can we make this learned behavior an easier behavior for them. When we look at our senses, we have what we know as our traditional 5 senses: our taste, our smell, our sight, our touch, and our hearing. But in addition, we also actually have some internal senses, known as our vestibular, our proprioception, and our interoception. With children, these 8 senses are all being used at the exact same time in eating, and it's the only time that all 8 senses will be used at the same time. So it's really important that we're creating an environment where our babies are actually able to be using all 8 of their senses appropriately, and so they can learn to be eating. Why are these senses important? We need to be focusing on all of these senses because within our brains we're trying to develop a sensory map. So it's essentially building Google Maps on how our babies are going to be processing food. Remember that with eating, we don't just eat food. We first are going to look at food, we're going to smell food, we're going to hear what food does, we're going to hear what food sounds like, we're going to feel food, and then ultimately we may get to tasting food. So it's going along this whole process to be building the sensory map so that our babies are actually able to be eating. The reason why we end up with picky kids is because they don't always have as big a sensory map as we would like them to have. Every time that we're eating different foods, or even the same food, that map needs to be built on. For example, if you've made them broccoli one day, the next time you make broccoli, it might be that it's been cooked for longer, so now it's softer. It might be that it's gone a little bit yellow and it's not as green. For a child, and particularly a baby, it's as if they're eating a brand new food. It's not that they're eating broccoli. So this is why that sensory integration is so important. Focusing on those internal senses, that vestibular system is, am I actually able to maintain my balance? Which is why we're needing babies to be able to sit with very little assistance before we actually start them on solids. This is why we also need their feet to be flat and grounded. It's going to help them maintain their balance. With everything else, if something is difficult for me to do, I'm not going to do it. So if I'm not comfortable sitting, I'm not going to want to sit. And now I'm going to be fighting to get out of the high chair rather than stay and eat comfortably. My proprioception is a feedback system. So it's me knowing where my body is in space. My proprioception is going to help me to understand, how do I actually bring food to my mouth? Do I know where it needs to go to? It's also going to help me know where that food is within my mouth so that the food doesn't essentially get lost. Or with some babies and toddlers, we have food that can pocket on the outside. My interoception is my ability to know, am I hungry, am I full, am I hot, am I cold? So it's essentially reading those body signals. With eating, we need to know, are we hungry and are we full? And this actually will go all the way into adulthood. And the reason why in some cases we have people who are overweight versus others that are of normal weight, because I'm actually still following my interoception. So with all of these senses, we need to make sure that our babies are in a calm environment so that they're not feeling overwhelmed in order to be making eating a happier, more pleasant time.